Hello everyone and welcome to Miles and Medals. I'm Greg and today I'm going to be talking about something I never thought I'd be able to achieve in my life, and that is running a 100k ultramarathon. Now you might be forgiven for assuming that I'm a long distance runner and I do a lot of training because I've just run 100k. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, before running in this ultramarathon, the furthest I'd actually run in my life was a half marathon, and that was back in 2013. 11 years later, I've signed up to run 3 of these to raise money for charity. The charity being the Royal Star in Garter, which is a veteran care home charity, and I'll talk about more about them at the end. This video is going to be about my almost zero to hero approach to it. Before deciding to do these ultramarathons, the furthest I was really running was park runs on a Saturday morning, and I'd only just started doing them in the winter of last year. Now, while I enjoyed them, even at that stage, I didn't think I'd be going for ultramarathons within a year. But as with anything, you start to enjoy something, you get into a rhythm, you start posting some okay times. You know, I'm 41, I'm never going to win these events, but I was doing okay for an 80 kilo, 41-year-old soldier. I started running some 10k events this year, the first being Winchester Road 10k. But whilst I enjoyed the 10k kind of distance, I wasn't really enjoying the roads aspect of it. Ended up signing up for a couple of trail runs. Those I enjoy. It's old school cross country pretty much, but I just enjoy the atmosphere, the scenery, the kind of variety of terrain. And that's where I first started looking into the longer distance events that I could possibly do. Still no real intent to do ultramarathons until I came up with the silly idea to run 3. This video is going to be about that first one, which is the Stour Valley 100k race based up in Suffolk. And it'll go through everything, my zero to hero training regime almost, and the trials and tribulations along the way, the mental and physical fatigue, the mistakes I made, and that was probably going to be a common theme throughout these videos, because I am very much an inexperienced runner trying things out, probably 20 years too late. And hopefully you'll enjoy these videos too. So without further ado, let's start with the first part of this video, setting off on what was going to be a long day. Starting from Newmarket, there were 6 aid stations along the 100k route, all with individual cut-off times, and the end finish line would be down in Manningtree.
A little bit overgrown. So just over 2k in, trying not to set off too quickly because I've done the maths, and what I want to be doing is setting 9 minute kilometers, which gives me a finish time of 15 hours for a first 15k. Easier said than done. Not only is 9 minute k is quite slow, it doesn't take into consideration the rest stops, and there's 6, so you're going to lose at least 5 to 10 minutes each time at the rest stops. Oh, got an injury. You're right. Don't want to write yourself off too soon. No. It's all right. So yeah, I've got to try and go around 7 minute Ks when I can, which should then give me quite a good buffer for the rest stops. Try and do the first 50k no quicker than 2 hours 20, bearing in mind I've got 3 hours to get to the first rest stop, which is at that 20k mark. So as long as I'm there around 9:20, we'll be all good. Then I've got another 2.5 hours to the next station, which is I think 10 miles, and then it slowly tapers down. The other thing I need to be aware of is obviously Pete is starting at the 50k mark, so he sets off at 1, and I've got a 6 hour head start, so I want to be in the rush as close to him as I can without writing myself off, so that we can finish together. But yeah, so far so good. See you in 10.
So at that stage I had quite a solid plan. I knew that to get to the finish line in 15 hours, that would be a 9-minute kilometre average pace for the duration. And that would give me a half-hour buffer for any dramas I'd face along the way as well. Obviously, I was trying to look at finishing a little bit early, and I had that little kind of secondary mission to try and catch up to Pete, and he was going to set off in 6 hours' time from around the 50k start line. At these early stages, you can see how tight it was on those initial tracks. People were tripping over all around me. There were roots sticking up from the ground, branches at eye height that people were having to duck under. And whilst it was annoying, that was actually quite a good thing to start from, because it just forced us to all go slowly and just get through those first 2 or 3k. Once we got out of that wood, the ground opened up, we had roads and fields to run through, so that gave everyone plenty of opportunity to overtake if they needed. I was probably being a bit ambitious, looking towards doing 7-minute kilometres. Whilst I'm capable of doing that for around 30 or 40k, that's not going to set me up for success in the later half. And actually, you'll see the struggles I had trying to maintain any pace. All I needed to be aware of was there were 6 aid stations. They each had a mandatory cut-off time, and I just needed to make sure that when I got there, I was as efficient as possible in refilling my water bottles, taking on some food, and then cracking on.
11k in. All the rapidos have gone by me now. First few k were a bit tight, so loads of backlog. But chatting to a few ninjas on this course, they've all said, yeah, take your time. It's not about the first 50k, it's about getting over the line for the second half. So all good. I've had a little walk, something to eat. I'm about 9k away from the rest stop, taking some fuel. About 4 minutes slower than my initial time. It's not a drama. I'm still well under 9-minute Ks. So as long as I can keep around 7 to 7:30s for the time being, I should be right. I've just got to be aware that as this race goes on, I am going to get slower. But hopefully I'll also be overtaking some of the people that have taken off right at the beginning. It is a race at the end of the day, isn't it? So I don't want to come last. But yeah, all good so far.
So already I've talked about the importance of doing a 9-minute kilometre. In my head, I decided that I needed to be closer to 7 to give me a buffer at the aid stations. God knows why, because I still had that half hour to play with if I managed to maintain a 9-minute kilometre average pace. But in my brain, I felt fresh. I'd had a nice slow start for 3k or so, and I knew the first aid station was going to be at the 20k mark. Obviously, adrenaline and everything, you're going to be a little bit quicker at the start. And like I said, all the people around me had suddenly just taken off. And for quite a lot of the race, I would actually be sat just in my own little bubble with not many people around me. The ones I had spoken to had all said the same thing. There were guys there that were doing this for the 3rd or 4th time. They'd all said, chill your beans for the first bit because people would burn themselves out. And I really wanted to make sure that whilst I knew I could do 50k, I wanted to make sure I wasn't putting myself in the hurt locker too soon, knowing that I'd have another 50k to go from that halfway point. At this stage though, not too many dramas, and I'm just looking at getting to that 20k aid station under that initial threshold time, get some food on board.
So just gone through the first aid station, just hit 20k, a little bit slower than I thought, but there were 2 people that I know for sure were behind me, and now those are people who are taking quite a long rest stop, about 5 or 6 ahead of me. So not doing too bad, still feel fairly fresh. My knee that I tweaked last week on a training run, really painful. So I've popped a couple of non-prescription drugs. Hopefully that'll get me through to about 30k. Take another couple, sing and dance my whole way home. Yeah, see you at 25.
So that was quite a good part of reflection for me. When I got to that first aid station at the 20k mark, there were about 10 or 15 people all stood around taking a really long break. And I realised that actually I was probably going to overtake people just by getting to the aid station, being efficient and moving on while they were still dilly-dallying around or chilling out. As I left that aid station, I'd been by myself for about 4k. And then suddenly all I could see were t-shirts dotted in the horizon for me, being slightly competitive, thinking, well, if I can gradually reel them in and overtake, have a chat to them as I'm going, that would be great. As I'd said there, so I had tweaked my knee the week before on a 30k training run. Hugely painful when I was trying to run, but I could walk fairly easily. It wasn't really hurting. I think it was just inflammation, of the knee joints, of the tendons around it. And certainly I knew that if the worst came to the worst, with a mixture of painkillers and walking, I should be able to finish. I always had some strapping in my hydration vest in case. But at that stage, whilst it was painful, I could still run on it, so I didn't feel too alarmed, and I was still feeling fairly fresh.
Just gone through 30k, 7k to the next rest stop. Oh God, yeah. Currently having to find markers. It's all a bit weird. I haven't got lost yet. Apparently everyone's still going, so that's good. Yeah, 1.5 park runs to the next rest stop.
So yeah, coming up to my next rest stop, at every road junction you had some kind of a volunteer marshal just to tell you which way you needed to go and to hold you back if traffic was coming. There I was having a random little bit of banter. I don't really know how well that went down. But as I said, quite cleanly marked at that stage. There were streamers on the hedgerows or a marshal. And we also had a GPX map on our phone that we could follow if we really got lost. It had been mentioned in reviews of this course that at some stages it did get quite hard to navigate. And I knew from chatting to some of the guys along the route that people had got lost before. So I was a little bit worried at that stage about how easy it would be, especially when it got dark. But certainly the first few K, I had no dramas whatsoever knowing where I was going to go. The other part was, as I mentioned there, I was going on about park runs. From watching videos on YouTube and just chatting to people who do long distance, they all spoke about the importance of putting some kind of psychological hook into the distance, and rather than thinking of it as one large block, trying to break it down into manageable lumps. So as you achieved them, it slowly took the distance down and it gave you something to aim towards. And for me, yeah, a park run, the ideal distance, 5k at a time. I was looking to make a video at every 10k, which again gave me time about 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after to think about what I wanted to say in the video, and obviously concentrate on what I was doing whilst I was filming. And then also looking at the little blocks. So for every 10k, that was great. Aid station, whatever stage that was at, and then quarter distance, half distance, 3/4 distance, all those manageable lumps just to keep my brain active and not think about the daunting task of actually doing what was essentially 2 marathons and a half marathon in one sitting.
40k done, gone through another rest stop. So I think one more before the 50k. I'm actually on schedule, which is nice. At this rate, if I keep this going, which I don't think I will, I'll literally only be a couple of k behind Pete when he sets off on the 50. But I already can feel it's taking more effort to maintain the same speed. So I'm having to walk a little bit more, but I'm about 50 minutes under the cut-off times at the minute. which is great because I'm going for a 15-hour finish on a 15.5-hour course. So I've got around an hour and a half to play with at the minute. So that's great. And I've overtaken quite a few people through accident rather than design. They've just taken longer at the rest stops, or they've set off too quickly. I've gone by a few with blisters. Someone's wrenched their knee. I'm going to walk now. So yeah, I'm not last at the moment. We see how it goes on.
So already, even in the first 50k, I've started making the rookie errors that I knew would trip me up. As I said there, I was 50 minutes under my target time of 15 hours, which should have been my first alarm bell ringing to say, you're going too quick, mate, slow the hell down. But in my mind, I thought, maybe I've just set a really simple finish target and I can get closer to 14 hours. It wasn't going to work that way. So at the minute, I'm 50 minutes under my 15-hour maximum target, plus the 30 minutes on top of there. But as I said there, it's taking more and more effort to maintain that pace. Switched on, chilled out Greg now, I should have just gone, yeah, let's just walk some more, chill out. But I got into that race spirit of, I was finding it fairly easy to maintain a pace, albeit putting more effort into it. I was overtaking people, and there were people already struggling with blisters. I'd seen some guys limping already. That one guy twisted his knee, unfortunately. So I still felt fairly good. And actually, in the cold light of day, maybe I should have just thought, yeah, just wind it back a little bit and think about that second 50k.
Oh my God. Just gone through 50k. My target was 7 hours ish, and I've done it in 6 hours and 17 minutes. So I know I've gone way too quick. I don't know how. So the last 3k, I've just taken my foot off the gas, having a walk, trying to regain a little bit of body battery. Good news is that's one marathon down. I've got 32k left of the next marathon, and then it's just a half marathon. So, or 10 park runs. Let's face it, park runs are easy. So let's do 10 park runs. Next aid station in about 1.5 k's. So I'm going to do a sock change, try and get some energy back, eat something, fill up all my water and electrolyte. I am already sick of the taste of lemon electrolyte. Oh, they need variety at these stations. But yeah, all good. And Pete should have set off about 17 minutes ago, so hopefully he's all right, and I'll see him in a little bit.
So awesome, Greg maths, rubbish pacing. I'd realised, yeah, 6 hours 17. I should have had another 43 minutes of walking and jogging to get to that kind of stage. I screwed myself over. I just didn't know how badly until later on. As I said there, I've started walking a bit more. By that time of the day, it got quite hot. It was in the kind of mid-20s. And I was, getting through quite a lot of water. As I said there, lemon electrolyte is my least favourite flavour. I never drink anything lemon flavoured, really. I could have bought my own stuff, but I kind of got into my mind that I'd utilise the aid stations for all of the gels and snacks rather than carrying more stuff on my bag. Looking now, I know that I'll bring my own flavours, because honestly, lemon electrolyte for already over 6 hours was really getting on my wick, but I had to drink it just to maintain all the nutrients that I was losing through sweat and effort at that stage. Pete had set off. He was battling an injury from the 50k training run we'd done 2 weeks previously. His foot had swollen up, and we were at that stage unsure how we would manage that. But we had said I would check in with him every kind of hour by phone just to see how he was getting on. And if for every reason he felt that he couldn't continue, he was just going to ping me a text to say he'd been collected. But we still had that kind of goal in the background that I would catch him up anyway. And if he was hurting, or I was hurting more realistically, we'd be able to drag each other over the line.
Oh, so we just crossed 60. 8 more park runs on my way to the 4th aid station. It's about another 8k away. Starting to feel it. My body wasn't exactly 100% before. My body wasn't exactly 100% before I started this, but body feels alright. I'm tired, but hey ho, keep going, eh?
So at this stage, the wheels are starting to fall off a little bit, and I just put it down to the fact that I'd started far too quickly and I was just going to have to get through it. At that stage, my hip flexors were really tight, my groin was tight, my legs were a bit tight. And whilst I felt okay mentally, I just realised my body was starting to really feel the strain. What I hadn't realised at that stage, and is probably going to be a common theme going forwards, is I was not eating anywhere near enough to maintain the effort I was putting in. And for the savvy guys that have been monitoring the stuff in my vest, I had a set of gels in my top left-hand pocket that had stayed there the whole time. I think at the 60k mark, I'd had one carb gel the entire time. Everyone that I'd been speaking to had said, make sure you have a carb gel around every hour, if not every 45 to 50 minutes. I was nowhere near that, so my body was already depleted of all the energy I needed. And the aid stations, whilst they were great, only really held small snacks, sweets, crackers, roast potatoes with some salt on, bags of crisps. Not substantial, it was just designed to top up what you're carrying with you. And I'd kind of gone a bit naively and only carried very basic gels and some carb chews. But whilst I was carrying them, I wasn't using them. So I was just screwing myself over the further I went into this race.
Okay, 70k done. Got to the last checkpoint. I'm not going to lie, I did a lot of walking. Lots of hills. There were some really tight paths, loads of divots and stuff I didn't want to risk injury. And the rest of it, I was just happy to tick along till I got to the last checkpoint. Smashed a load of watermelon, loads of pineapple. I've managed to finish a 30-gram bag of crisps that I've had since about 53k. You just can't eat enough. But yeah, all good. Pete's about 5k ahead, so we're going to see how that all goes. But at the moment, it's good.
So yeah, really starting to hurt at this stage. Just energy levels have thoroughly been depleted. And as I said there, I'm kind of whinges how you just can't eat enough. My drama is that I just didn't feel hungry at any stage. And it's weird because I love my food, and put me in front of a buffet, or if there's a table with food on that you can just keep going back to pick at, I will be there religiously every 10 or 15 minutes, even though I may feel full. On that run though, I just physically couldn't face eating anything. And that 30-gram bag of crisps that normally I could demolish in under a minute had lasted me over 17k, and I'd had to force it down. Really weird, and it's something I'm certainly going to have to train to be better at. But as I said there, I'm just not eating enough, and all I am eating at the aid stations is some pineapple and watermelon, which, while it's got some natural sugars in and it's going to help hydrate with the watermelon, it's not enough to replenish what I've burnt on that first 70k. Pete is about 5k ahead at this stage. We checked in by phone. At that stage, I pretty much knew that he was still fairly fresh. His injury wasn't affecting him too much. So the chances of me catching him up, unless he really slowed down or waited for me, were quite minimal. But on the plus side, I was going to finish fairly close to him, so that would be great.
Just over 80k. Guys are braking all around me. There's a dude behind me cramps up every 30 seconds. In the hurt locker. Two behind him. Been doing a really good pace because the calves are quite tight. So they smashed first half, and I keep catching up to them just before the checkpoints. But yeah, they're hurting now. And I think, I've seen one guy DNF, seen a guy suffering from heat stroke who's quite a wide bet now. I think there's a few that aren't going to make the cut-offs. I can't run. I've tried a few little trots. If it's not downhill, it's not happening. But I've got time. I've got 4 hours to do 20k, so let's go. Oh la la. Just over 90k. Yeah, tired. I'm still well within the cut-off time for the next and last aid station. I think it shuts at 9:30. I should get there around 1:45. Just spoke to Pete. He's gone through the final aid station, so he's probably about, at the time I called him, he was probably about 7k ahead, which is great for Pete. He's really worked on his pacing. Yeah, I thought I might catch him by about 80k at the start, but he's just stayed so consistent and I've just started tailing off. But it's all good. My original aim, and I have to keep reminding myself about this, was to finish by 10 o'clock. So that's 15 hours on a 15.5 hour course. I think if I can get enough energy together for the last 6k, I may be able to get in under 10, which will be amazing. But yeah, it's been great. Everything hurts. But I've seen quite a few people now have pulled out in both a 50 and 100. So I'm really proud of myself for managing to keep going. Just hope I can get this last bit done and then it's all good.
So yeah, 80k in and people were really starting to hurt around me. The guy with heat stroke that I'd seen, he'd been about 30 metres ahead of me, just started throwing up. Luckily it was near a marshal, so we were able to get him straight over to where there was some spare water and get him to chill out. But he was adamant that he was going to keep going. He'd done this event 3 or 4 times before, and he just had that mentality of this close to the end. He just wanted to get through. It was still quite hot at this stage, but luckily it was getting later on in the day, so he should be all right. And we had beacons on us as well, so he could be monitored. 2 of the other guys, they raced ahead at the beginning, and I'd recognised them from about the 20k mark. Hadn't seen them for a while till I caught up to them, and they kind of restricted themselves now to a run-walk program where they were walking for about 4 or 5 minutes and then running for 2. So it just meant they'd run past me, and then my natural walking pace was quick enough that I'd catch them up. We'd have a chat, a bit of a natter, I'd overtake, and then they'd run by me again. So we had a good bit of banter for a little bit. But yeah, there were people already declaring that they just couldn't go on. They were DNFing. And whilst I was adamant I was going to finish and I wasn't worried that I was going to run out of energy and not be able to finish, as I said there, I just could not run anymore. If I tried, I just immediately got out of breath, no matter how slowly I tried to run. So unless I had downhill momentum, there was no chance that I was going to be running. Equally, I'd got a stone in my shoe, and just reaching down to untie my shoelace and adjust that, both my calf muscles cramped up, which was agony for a couple of minutes. So I realised, right, now I just need to soldier on and get to that finish line and then collapse. So yeah, I'm in the hurt locker. I'm really tired. Everything hurts. And there's still gels in my pocket that I'm not using. Great. Yeah, by that stage, I was actually, even though I was going slower, I'd been averaging in the first 50k around kind of 6:50 to 7:30 minute kilometers. By now I was in the kind of early 9 minutes, sometimes 8:30s, but definitely getting slower as I went on. Despite that, I was still overtaking people, and I was actually overtaking people that were on the 50k course, which is quite a good morale booster that late on in the day. As I'd said there, I'd spoken to Pete. He was about 7k ahead. He was going to finish fairly soon. But I was still in that mindset of, as long as I finish, I've achieved a 100k ultramarathon, which is amazing. And that was keeping me going. I knew I had that bloody mindedness to just keep going, even though my feet were sore, my hip flexors and groin were really sore, my quads and calves were quite tight. Hadn't cramped again, but I didn't think they were far off. And I was just reeling in people that I could see ahead of me. And actually, people were quite impressed with how quickly I can actually walk. It was probably quicker than I could run by this stage. But I still had that time limit in my mind, 15 hours, finish at 10 o'clock in the evening. It was still realistic. I would just need to push a little bit to do that. But I still had that half-hour buffer as well. And I was close enough that I should be able to realistically manage that.
So my Garmin's just clicked to tell me I've done 100k, which is amazing. But then I looked on the GPX map to tell me how close I am. I was hoping it was 1 or 2k. It told me I've still got a park run to do. So, yay. I was hoping to finish before 10. I think I'm going to be just over, but that's not bad. Obviously Pete should be finished now, which is amazing. Yeah, as long as I'm under the time, I'm happy. Lots to learn. I thought I was on top of my pacing, but I wasn't. I thought I was on top of my nutrition. I just could not eat enough. It was horrible. Hydration, not too bad, but I have spent most of today in the heat. Yeah, it's been hard, but yeah, almost done.
So at this stage, it was all going wrong. I was still well under the time, and that, I need to remember, was the goal, finishing under 15:30. I'm on course for that. It is getting late, and the two guys on their run walk that I kept overtaking, by this stage, they just left me for dead. I tried to hang on to their kind of shirt tails for a little bit, but I just had nothing left in the tank, and I was very much walking to just get to the end. Because I was so mentally fatigued at this stage, there is no video of me finishing and crossing the line. I have the proof, which I will show with my time on, but it was just a case of get through. I'd phoned Pete just around 4 or 5k from the end. His phone was about to die and he was just about to finish. I thought that Pete, being the good guy that he is, would be waiting for me at the finish line. But when I got there, he was inside eating pizza and cake, chatting to other people. So all I have is a selfie taken at the finish line, and you can see how horrendous I look. So a bit of a 1,000-yard stare there, but at the finish line, happy to have finished and ready for a good night's sleep. So I always set out to finish this race in 15 hours, bearing in mind I had a 15-hour and 30-minute window. Actually, I did it in 14 hours and 50 minutes. So even though I was getting quite negative towards the end, thinking I'm going to be just over that time, I'd actually managed to speed up enough and let adrenaline carry on over the finish line with a kind of semi-jog / run. Met up with Pete to see him eating his pizza and chocolate cake, and settled in just for 20 minutes to try and recover a bit. Hit this really weird kind of cycle where sitting inside with Pete, I just feel hot, lightheaded, a bit nauseous, felt I was going to pass out. Take myself back outside, recover, go back inside, only for that to repeat itself. In the end, just bit the bullet and stayed outside, nibbled on a couple of slices of pizza until I felt strong enough and recovered enough to drive Pete back to his car so he could go home, and then drive myself back to my hotel that I was staying in. Quick shower, into bed, slept like a log, didn't really feel hungry at all. Woke up the next morning not feeling hungry, forced myself to eat something, still feeling pretty exhausted, but got myself back to base, ready to start the week. Again, all the things. I wasn't eating properly even after the race. I hydrated okay. I hadn't stretched off. So I was pretty sore for a few days. Stupidly, I'd also signed up to do a run, a 10K race on the Saturday. So despite the fact that I hadn't really recovered and my knees and legs were still sore, I turned up, I ran it. Not great. I did it in just over an hour. It was fine. But bearing in mind that I know I've got my 100K event in 3 weeks' time, probably not the best thing to have done. I need to give my body time to recover. Chances are the next one's going to be a bit of a struggle because, as I said, I need to recover, which means I won't be training. So I've got to rely on muscle memory / fatigue from this event to carry me over the next one. There's lots of things I need to take away from this event. I need to work on how much I eat. I need to work on my pacing for sure, because otherwise I'm just going to struggle again. But I survived. I got through, and that was always the main thing. And out of 90 people that took part in this event, I finished in 53rd place, so almost middle of the pack. I think only about 68 or 69 finished, so there was quite a few that just DNF'd, and a few of the guys that I know DNF'd had run this event before, so I need to be proud of the fact that I got myself through to the finish line injury-free and able to actually go for a run within 7 days. That's quite a good achievement. And also, Pete did really well because he was running with an injury. He hadn't had as much training time as I had, and he managed to finish in just over 7 hours, which is great for Pete's only second 50K event. And I'm hoping that he will be able to join me on the Stour Valley Path in 3 weeks' time for his first ever 100K. And there we have it, a 14-hour and 50-minute time for my first ever 100K effort. 10 minutes under the 15-hour time frame that I'd actually given myself before the race. So the last thing to talk about is the charity that I'm fundraising for, which is the Royal Star and Garter. And as I said at the beginning of the video, they provide veteran housing around the UK. They've got 3 homes, one in Solihull, one in Surbiton, and one in my hometown of High Wycombe. And they are amazing, amazing people that really look after the veterans, providing physical healthcare, dementia healthcare, mental healthcare, and they are unbelievable people that I just want to give a big shout out to. If nothing else, I would love it if you could go onto their social media on Facebook and Instagram, just add them, follow their content, give them some likes, just share the stories that they put out, especially some of the veteran stories that go up on there. Equally, if you'd like to donate, any money raised will be going towards the upkeep and refurbishment of their dementia wing in the Surbiton home. I've put a link in my bio, so if you're watching this video fairly recently, you'll be able to donate. If for any reason you're watching this later on and the link isn't there, you can still go onto their home pages and find links there as well. If you do decide to donate, thank you very much, and please put a comment in there to say that you're donating on behalf of the charity adventurers or the Miles and Medals charity. It just helps track how much reach we're getting. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and I'll be putting up more from the further events that I do. Please keep your eye out for content, and if you'd like to put any comments below, that'd be fantastic. Just let me know what you thought. Thank you very much.